It's here. Remember sitting here?
Right here. Right there, sir.
All right.
Well, Governor, on behalf of the city of Dinuba and the city council, Dinuba City Council, as mayor, I want to welcome you back again. So this is the second time you've been with us. And we're very, very proud that you picked Dinuba to hold your meeting. It's really good. You know, and since the last time you were here, we've got a golf course now that is just about completed.
It doesn't help me much.
After we get it completed, we were going to invite you here and come in and join us, and you meet us all on the golf course.
All right.
So it's just really...
With the cigar.
We'll make sure we'll have a cigar for you. Okay?
As long as it's revenue generating.
Right. But we're so proud that you have picked us again to come. And we're so delighted to have you. Beautiful day, too, that you picked to come.
That's right.
You know, and this is called the White House. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the journey to the White House. And it's a gateway to the real White House. Unfortunately...
Doesn't help me much either. Two things now. Not helping me much. Because I hope you come up with a
We're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
And,
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Connie, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's my honor to make an introduction. I think that I really don't need to make, except to say that this governor has, since we're local government, been a friend to local government. He's been a partner to local government and has done more for local government than any governor in the history of the state. And it's my honor and my privilege to welcome him here. And without further ado, to introduce Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, thank you very much, Connie, for your nice introduction.
You're welcome,
And also thank you for organizing this. And also you, Mayor, thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. As you know, I just announced my budget on January 10th and also presented my State of the State address on January 8th. And both of those made it very clear that the state of California is doing very well in many, many different areas, except housing and the subprime crisis, mortgage crisis that we have. And that has some spillover effect, which has some effect on the economy. But the budget crisis that we have in our state has actually very little to do with that problem with the economy, because that's only a little part. We have a shortfall, or I should say $4.6 billion less revenues coming in than anticipated. So we anticipated approximately a 5% increase in revenues. What we get is a 1% increase in revenues. So the revenues are not going down. Our revenues are very steady and stable, but flat. But at the same time, we are seeing that if things continue the way they are, that by next year, by the end of the next fiscal year, we could have a $14.5 billion deficit. So, of course, this is not a deficit now, but it could be the deficit by end of next year if we don't do anything about it. Now, there's some people that say, well, when you have a problem like that, you should, raise taxes. Now, this is out of the question for us, because every time we see our spending going beyond of where our revenues are, we cannot go and raise taxes, because if we would do that every time, our taxes would not be 100%. So we have seen people from Ronald Reagan days on to Jerry Brown, to Duke Majan, Pete Wilson, Gray Davis. Every governor had those problems where during the administration once or twice you see the economy maybe going down, but revenues continuing on, because there's no relationship between the revenues and the spending. The spending just keeps going on. Now, many of those governors, because of that problem, have tried to fix the budget system, because we need to have a budget system where the revenues and the spending lines are together. But they were not successful. And one of the main reasons why I think that we had such a huge problem in 2003, and even it got to the recall, was because of our budget crisis. And so when I came into office, I made it very clear to the legislators that I have all intentions to fix that right away. Well, we tried, but it didn't pass. They had no interest in fixing that. Then we went to the people in 2005 and tried again to fix the budget system. And again, we were not successful. It didn't pass either. So this is now our third attempt. So we hope that the third one is the successful one. I think the legislators in both parties, Democrats and Republicans alike in Sacramento, are very clear that we do have a serious problem and it needs to be fixed. And it is just simply not fair to send the people in California through this roller coaster ride every single year. That, one time you see the economy going up and things are going well and they spend all that money. And then as soon as the economy goes down a little bit or our revenues are stabilizing or turning flat, all of a sudden we cannot control it, the spending, and the spending just continues and continues and continues. Now we have here some charts that I wanted to bring just to show to you of what I'm talking about here. Here we have, as you can see, you have spending. The yellow line is the spending. And then you have the green line, that is the revenues. So as you can see here, for instance, our revenues go up to $71 billion by the year 1999, I should say. And the spending, though, goes up to $78 billion. So it is totally out of whack. There's no relationship between the spending line and the revenue line. Then it stays for years and years and years until we came into office, 2003. It stays totally out of whack. And we're talking here about billions of dollars. Then finally, a year later, after I came into office, we got the two lines together. We kept them together. Now the economy, as you can see, is leveling off. But as the economy is leveling off, which is nothing wrong with that happens, periodically, it goes like this. As it's leveling off, the spending line continues, has absolutely no relationship with the revenues. Now think about running a business like that, where you continue spending, or whatever office that you're running, or a family, your household. If you do that, you will be bankrupt in no time. You can't do that. It's not fiscally responsible. So what we want to do is we basically want to take this line here and bring it in line with the revenue lines. So as you can see, we are not really cutting anything. We're not like bringing it down. It will increase, but not by as much. Now that, because we want to bring this line down to this line, is considered now a major cut. In fact, it's not really cutting. What we are trying to do is just bring it in line. Now here is, if we take our budget reforms, this is what will happen. It will bring the two lines together. If we would have had for the last 10 years this budget reform in place, we would see both of those lines much more together. Not always exactly together, but much more together. Now here, you can see right over here, we are doing, no, just say that. You're not that tall. He thinks he's Kobe Bryant or something like that. But here you can see very clearly here that if we don't do anything about it, we are 2006, 2007, 2007, 2008, right here, we are right now here. It will continue on for years and years and years by being billions and billions of dollars every year out of whack. Now, there's no one that can afford that. So the problem is, as I've said earlier, each time, as you see there's irregularities, if we each time will raise taxes, when those things happen, we would now pay a huge amount of taxes. So taxes is no way to solve this problem. We cannot tax our way out of this problem. This is the bottom line. What we can do and what we must do is just simply go and say, let's bring these two lines together and let's be fiscally responsible and let's only spend what we have. Now, right now, we have Mike Ginest here, our finance director, who has done an extraordinary job these last few years and has been with me for a long time. He can tell you that right now we are spending $400 to $600 million a month more than we are taking in. And we have no system in place to stop it. No system in place. We keep spending, and this is why I have declared fiscal emergency. So that now the legislators have 45 days to sit down and to work out the problem, so that with this year, the budget year of 2007, 2008, this year can make some cuts and stop this increase of spending. This is just for this year. We think we can maybe help by around $800 million to $1 billion, even though the whole is $3.3 billion. But because it's too late now, it takes sometimes months to stop the spending. You know, you cannot, if you stop in a certain, if you decrease some of the spending in prisons, for instance, it would take months to have an effect. Same as in healthcare, a lot of cases, or in education. We are right now over-appropriating $1.4 billion in education because we assumed we have higher revenues. We assumed we have those higher revenues, but in fact, this is not what happened. So now we are over-appropriating, we are overspending on education, so we are cutting down $400 million on that instead of the whole $1.4 billion that we are over-appropriating, because we don't want to hit the schools. There's certain things you just can't take the money away because they've already calculated it in, they've already budgeted it this way, and they've already spent it a lot of times. So in education, that's the case. We don't want them to have to fire all the teachers and all this. We want to make sure that our children are protected as much as possible. So this is why we told them that we're not going to take the whole $1.4 billion, but only $400 million to protect the kids, because I still think they are our number one priority. But I think it is unfair to anyone and everyone in California to take us through this roller coaster ride. And every time we have budget time, that we take people through this roller coaster ride where they all have to hold on for dear life and not know what's going to happen. What we need is we need to have a reform where we bring stability in there, where it still goes up, but it doesn't go like this and to take people on this ride. So I think that the state of California has done a great job in these last few years to get its act together and to help the budget situation. I mean, when I came in, the state of California was almost bankrupt. We did not know how to make the next payments anymore. Now, we turned all this around. We stimulated the economy. We created almost 1 million new jobs. We reformed workers' compensation so that there's $14 billion going back to the private sector. And, of course, we rescinded the car tax, which is $4 to $6 billion a year. Altogether now, that adds up to $20 billion. So we gave $20 billion also back to the people of California. So altogether, we are talking about $34 billion in tax money we gave back to the people of California. So this is what our administration was all about, is giving the money back to the people, not trying to add taxes or increasing taxes, because that's not the way to run government. We have to be fiscally responsible. That is the bottom line for us. And so we have done everything that we can to control it. Now the big thing is now for us to control that budget. So if there's any questions that you have about that, please, let's talk about that, because that's why I wanted to meet with the local leaders, because everything that we do will have an effect on you all also. And also, I know that local government is also squeezed, and local government is having budget problems, because everyone feels it. No matter if I talk to Mayor Viragosa or any mayor that I talk to, or county officials, everyone feels the situation that we are in. And so what we want to do is, of course, we all want to work together as much as possible. So if there's any questions about any of that, please let me know. Mike, do you want to add anything that I talked about now, since you are the finance director? So maybe you want to add on something.
I do want to just remind you that you also campaigned vigorously for Proposition 1A, which protected local government from the sort of situation we're in now. So we're not going to be seeing massive impacts on local government from this budget situation. There may be some indirect ones, but thanks to Proposition 1A that you sponsored.
Mike is absolutely correct. One of the things that we have done right from the beginning was we saw what has happened in the past. That every time there was a budget problem or they were short of money, the state government immediately went to steal money from local government. They went after your money. And something like $1.3 billion or so, or even more. Even more than that in the past. So we also, of course, we campaigned together, all of us, campaigned together and campaigned for Proposition 1A, and it passed overwhelmingly by 80-some percentage. 80% of the voters have approved Proposition 1A. Then Proposition 42, which protects transportation money, we also helped with that because a lot of money was stolen there too. When I came into office, twice the previous administration has taken $1.4 billion or something like that from transportation. So we stopped that also. And then, of course, we through Proposition 58, when we passed Proposition 57 and 58, when we got the economic recovery bond money, we in Proposition 58, it says that you cannot start borrowing for ongoing programs. So we stopped that. So we stopped in every single angle. We stopped we tightened the noose. So this is why I say this is a really good year in a way, because now the legislators are faced with this problem as they've been faced many times before, where where the spending is much higher than the revenues, and they can't borrow against that. They can't go out now. They can't grab your money anymore. They can't steal money anymore from transportation. They can't do anything. They can borrow or sell bonds so nothing can be done. We luckily have $3.3 billion of bonds left over from the $15 billion bonds that we got just 4 years ago. But that's it. So we can't go out and borrow money for ongoing programs. So the noose is tightened. So now they have to make a decision and say, okay, let's create a system once and for all, where the two lines, the spending line and the revenue line, comes together, and that when we have an increase in revenues that we have seen in 1999, as I've said here, when we see it here, or when we see it here again, that we take some of that money and put it into a rainy day fund. So when you see the revenues decrease, that you can then go and supplement that particular year or 2 years. And also to use the Arkansas model, that if something like that happens and we run out of money, that we know exactly which programs do we cut, rather than sitting down and having that fight for months and months and months and nothing gets done. Because the problem in Sacramento is that every single year when we do budget, we debate and we argue over it for 2 to 3 months. In these 2 to 3 months, nothing else gets done. Now, if we have already decided ahead of time, if there's a shortfall in revenues, which programs get cut, then we don't have to have that debate, and we can move on and talk about education reform, talk about important things, infrastructure, creating water for the future in California, talk about important issues rather than talking about the same budget issue for 3 months. So those are the kind of things that we want to accomplish this year. Now, I have to tell you that Sacramento has changed a lot. It has changed a lot in as far as people working together. Democrats and Republicans are working together much better than I've seen ever before. One of the biggest problems when I came into office was that both parties, that the Democrats and Republicans just could not get anything done, couldn't get along. And always, as a matter of fact, many people always said to me, this will be your biggest challenge when you go to Sacramento, to bring Democrats and Republicans together. I say, I sleep with a Democrat every night. So, how difficult can it be to bring those two together? But we did bring them together. And there were a lot of fights and there were some struggles and all this. But I think that in these last 2 years we have seen much more getting taken care of. When you just think about the historic infrastructure, for 4 decades we haven't seen anything being built in this state, and then all of a sudden now, they have agreed to $37 billion of infrastructure. The people have approved an additional $5 billion in water projects. It's $42 billion altogether. And when you think about that, finally they made a commitment to really increase and expand the prison system, from the 100,000, the facility that can hold only 100,000 inmates, to add 53,000 new beds. That was an extraordinary kind of a commitment, which they never thought would happen. So we're in the right direction there. So now all we have to do is just finish the healthcare and also the water, because I think it is extremely important that we have enough water for the state of California. And I think that we have to push very hard, and I need your help, all of your help, to make sure that we get that water. And we're very close to that of getting it. I think that just right now everyone in Sacramento is concerned that because we have this temporary bump with the budget, that, oh my God, maybe we shouldn't touch anything and do any other projects. That's why I used the the FDR example in my State of the State, where say, well, even during the Depression, he went out and he's, built a lot of projects. 78,000 bridges and 125,000 buildings and 650,000 miles of highways and so on. I think that's what we have to do, because we can't confuse a temporary problem, which is the budget bump that we see, and confuse it with a permanent situation, a permanent help. What we want to do when we talk about water and when we talk about infrastructure and building schools and universities and all of those things will last for a long time. As much as we still today enjoy what FDR has built, this is what we want to do 50 years from now. They will enjoy, so when they turn on the water, that there is the faucet, that there is in fact water coming out. I think that's what we want to do. Anyway, I take questions. Yeah, please.
Just a comment, Governor. First, under 42, you could have suspended those transportation dollars. I just want to say on behalf of our county and the cities that we really appreciate your recommendation that not be done and that money be left there for transportation, because we have some major projects in our county that we are really looking forward to those dollars coming in so we can move forward with those projects.
Right.
So we realize things are kind of in flux sometimes, so we hope you'll remain firm in that commitment to keep those transportation dollars there, because it's very critical to our part of the country.
Thank you very much for saying that, and we will not take money from those funds. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that we have had some very productive meetings lately with the leaders, where we all have agreed that we should actually get that money that the people have approved in November 2006 to get it out as quickly as possible. Especially now, since we see a slump in the housing market, we need to put those workers to work. If it's the carpenters, the people that work with cement, the welders, and all of those people that do construction work, we got to get these workers to work. And so with this public projects, it's a perfect way to do it. So we have to appropriate that money as quickly as possible and get it out so everyone goes to work. Absolutely. Any other question? Yes, please.
I got a message for you from Dinuba.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'd like to have you, please, if you would, stand your ground and do not abandon the cities. We need you. And listen to the people, because we all want cities a whole, as the whole.
Right.
Because we all voted for A, B, and C. And
right.
And then, lastly, please do not knuckle under to the special interests.
No problem with that. Okay. No problem with that. But I think, go ahead.
And overall, you've done a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. But I think that the key thing here is that we explain to the people of California, and that's why I go from town to town and from county to county, up and down the state, to explain what we face and why this is very important now to fix this, and that we all work together on this, and to explain that it is going to be tough. When you expect this and revenues and spending, but your revenues are here, people expect this. So anytime you bring that line down to this line, there are disappointments. Because I'm talking here about a difference of more than $10 billion right there. Year after year after year, $10 billion. So now to go and bring that line down, schools will be disappointed. People in healthcare, vulnerable citizens. There's so many people that will be affected by that. They expected more money than they're going to get. But we can't, as you can see, we don't have the money. We can't spend that money. There is no way. And we're very clear that the people of California are sick and tired of being taxed every time there's a problem. So therefore, that's all we have. Some people say, why don't you go back to the vehicle license fee? Increase the vehicle license fee. This could be $6 billion. I said, remember how upset people were in 2003? When the politicians in Sacramento all of a sudden, ran out of money, and the first thing they did was, rather than really fixing the budget problem, they went after the people, and they said, we're going to raise your taxes, and all of a sudden the person that pays normally $200 for their vehicle license fee had to pay $700 and all those things. It's inexcusable. You can't do that because people have already a tough enough time to afford the gas to get to work. Why would you go to them and say, look, we can get our act together, now it's your fault, we're going to charge you? So that's not the way to go. So this is why it is very important that we stay disciplined here and to explain this to the people. And I think the people appreciate it. Everyone, look, I have people coming up to me on the streets. I mean, I go around and I go out to the parks and play with my kids. Or yesterday I was at the shooting range in the morning, shooting with my son. Skeet and trap shooting. I mean, people came up to me all the time and says, look, I know it's going to be tough. I know that we're going to make cuts in education and cuts in healthcare and all of those different things. But stay tough on this because we need discipline in Sacramento and we need to go and really be fiscally responsible. Not every time you have a bump in the road here, you go in charge, you increase the taxes. So it's going to be difficult. The only way we're going to be able to do it is by all of us working together. And, of course, what you've heard in the budget, so you understand. When I did my budget presentation on January 10th, that was my way of saying, here is my solution to the problem. Now, the Republican legislators and the Democratic legislators, both of them now have to come and start negotiating. Now, they may come up with different ideas, and I made it very clear that I'm open-minded, I'm inclusive, I want to get all of the ideas. There's 120 legislators in that building. They all are bright, they all are brilliant, and they all are willing to make things work and to do what is best for the people of California. So I'm going to work together with them. So because I'm not the only one that is running the Capitol, so we're all going to work together. But here was my solution to the problem. Now let's hear what the others have to say. Yes?
Oliva Martinez, City of Porterville. You mentioned the prison side of it. You have a plan, but then you have a receiver that doesn't have a plan, and he's just writing checks. So where does your budget come in as far as his control of our prison system?
First of all, it's a very good question because we have a big mess in our prisons because there's too many chefs that are trying to, steer the thing, and no one really is ultimately in control because we have federal judges and we have, Jim Dilton, who is the secretary of, the prison system, and we have the legislators, and we have me, and everyone together. So I think the key thing is that we build as quickly as possible the facilities, that we go and create the re-entry facilities as quickly as possible so that those people that don't need to be in a state prison can be also in local facilities, so we take some of that financial burden off, and that we reform our parole system in such a way that we don't automatically put everyone on parole, and so the parole agents that are out there, the officers, can pay attention to those that are really critical cases rather than having to pay attention to everybody. So we're working on all of that. So it will help our budget. That it will also work with the federal judges because, of course, they are, as you know, breathing down our neck because they want to put a cap on it. And we say, no, stop, don't do that. Let us work with you so we can figure out a way together so we don't all of a sudden release the wrong people. Because what we don't ever want to do is release dangerous criminals out into the streets, violent criminals out into the streets just because we run out of space or because we run out of money. We don't want to do that. We want to do it the right way and figure out how can we help the budget, how can we work with the federal judges, how can we work with the receiver and with the legislators and bring everyone together and be fiscally responsible and also at the same time be responsible for public safety, which is the most important thing of all. Yes, please.
Specifically, where do we go from here? How do we get it done? And how, Phil Vanderbilt, City of Tulare, and how can local government help you?
The key thing for you all is to put the pressure on the legislators. They have now 45 days to solve the problem for this fiscal year, for 2007, 2008, because we made a budget last August, we signed it, but obviously that budget, at that time we did not know that the revenues are going to come in short of what we anticipated. So therefore, we have to now go back and say, okay, let's do mid-year cuts. And so this is what I'm trying to do. If they, and I have already told them, and I will tell them every day now, I say, don't even wait the whole 45 days. It's a waste of time. Do it now. You know the proposal that I have made for this year is a reasonable proposal where we take $800 million to $1 billion off from the spending. Let us work on that right away. We can do that in a week. All we have to do is, and I always recommend to them, let's stay in the office, let's lock ourselves in, I order a lot of Wiener Schnitzel and a lot of Apfelstrudel. I get the Austrian Schnapps going and the tequila for some others or whatever they want. But let's just stay in the capital. Let's solve the problem. We can solve it in a week. There's no two ways about it. There's no reason to always go through the kabuki that they do in the capital, where they do the song and dance first and, all of the. We don't need it. They know we have a problem. Let's make the cuts now for this year. Then the next thing is, as soon as we have done that, the important thing is to immediately start working on the next year's budget and the 2008-2009 budget. Why? Because the sooner we can solve that and not wait until end of June, beginning of July, because then again we spend more money, because it takes time, like I said, sometimes months to go and start stopping the spending. So if we get a budget going then, let's say, for the 2008-2009 in a month and a half from now, then we can start right then and there with kind of working in advance. And Mike, you maybe can address quickly the various different areas of where you have difficulty making cuts immediately.
Well, yeah, the best example, Governor, is in the Medi-Cal program, where first we have to get a law enacted, because all Medi-Cal spending is dictated by some law or another, and that takes a while. Once we get that law enacted, then we have to notify people that things are changing. We have to sometimes reprogram computer systems. And then the bills for that month, when we finally get the new cuts in place, don't come in usually for 2 or 3 months. By then you might be in the next fiscal year, so you didn't help this fiscal year. In general, by implementing the governor's proposals for 8-9 with trailer bills, statutory changes to all those laws that drive our spending, doing that and having those bills take effect March 1, that's going to save us over $1 billion in the budget year. If we wait until June 30th, we'll have to cut that much more, because we'll have less time to achieve the savings.
Governor, I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Governor Ed Murray, City of Lindsay. When you took office, one thing you talked about was getting rid of duplicated programs, such as Cal EPA versus we have the federal EPA. Several of those issues. Where did that happen along those lines? We still have some of these that are, actually we have a national program, that we have a state, a country of our own center over here in California. I understand food safety and things like that are important, but I wonder about what happened to some of those issues where we're going to get rid of duplicated programs.
Well, first of all, as you remember, when I came in, I said, let's blow up the boxes. Well, I wanted to get rid of all the commissions and all the different, things that I thought no one would care about that much, and ought to be eliminated, because a lot of it is wasting money. But that, from both parties, was absolutely like war. It was really amazing. I mean, because you try, when you as an outsider come in and you try to fix something because it makes sense to the outside world, what to the inside world, it doesn't make any sense at all. It makes sense to them, but they refuse to do it, because a lot of those positions are there because people like to appoint. In politics, people like to appoint people to commissions and to boards and stuff like that. So if they cannot now appoint anyone to any commission, they feel like, wait a minute, how can we now tell someone, well, you did a good job in my campaign and all those kind of things. So it was a no-no. So both parties came to me and said, don't touch that. Then there were other things where it was better, and I think it created more protection, like with the EPA, and so created more protection, and it would have not been as safe. If it is food safety, if it is air safety, if it is water safety, and all of those kind of things. So we kept those things in place, but told the agencies that you can't grow the way you have in the past, just limit the growth. And I think this is what we are doing now also. And this is why we have made a commitment in our, even in the governor's office, we have said we're going to make 10% cuts also, because we want to get that point across, that we have to get, cuts across the board. And we also recommended to the legislators, you also make a 10% cut up there in the legislature. And so everyone has to make cuts, including every department. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.